Hi guys, it is time for our second week of our Journey to Wellness program and our Journey to Wellness class. So this week we are going to focus on steps to success in our weight loss journey this time. How do we succeed, right? Are you like me, sick and tired of being sick and tired? A year and a half ago, I was miserable. I was disliking everything about myself, and I was seeking therapy in order to try to figure out how I could lose this weight. Was I self sabotaging? Was I struggling because of things that I was doing? What was going on? So, I would like you to dare to dream for just a minute of a future where you are in control of your health and weight, where you're always going to be in control. So, what do we do? How do we change this time? How do we make this change stick? If you're like 95% of Americans, you've probably made a change, had to only gain it all back, maybe some extra, right? How do we change? First, we have to have the desire. And if you're watching this video, you probably have the desire to change. You need to have the tools, right? You need to know what it is that you should do in order to be successful. You need to have a very specific plan. How am I going to change? What am I going to do? Many, many, many tools exist, but what is your plan? And you need to have a support system. The reality is nobody can do this on their own. Nobody can do this completely in isolation. So finding your support is going to be important. And then I hope you dare to dream, right? I hope you dream and hope that maybe this time it'll be different. So before we get started, I want you to remember your why. Why are you doing this? Why are you here in the first place? What is your purpose? Right? When your motivation starts to slip, when you're starting to be tempted by that food or that activity or failure to go to the gym or whatever it is that's on your plan, remember why you're here, right? Share your why. I'd like you to share it with us. So if you're watching my video as opposed to being in my class, I want you to write it in the comments. Why are you even dreaming? Why are you on YouTube right now looking for options on how to change your life? What is your reason? Last video, in video one, I shared my why. I obviously have struggled with obesity my whole life, but there's other things, right? I want to take care of my health. So to share your why with your friends, talk to your best friend, talk to that person that you can count on, share with your family. But more importantly, I want you to think, why not? Why can't I do this time? Why can't I make the trip? What is it that's hindered me in the past? What has it been? And dare to dream and say, why not? Why not this time? So let's prepare for our journey, right? If we're going to do some changes, we need to have prepared for our journey. The first thing is you have to prepare your home, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Is that the saying, right? And so we need to plan. So the first thing we need to do is we need to clean out our cabinets and our fridge. We need to get all the food out of our house that is a temptation for us. So personally, I actually started without emptying my home, which was okay for a few weeks. And then I was like, I just have all this food in my cabinets that I'm never going to eat again. So I just piled it all up in the back of my car. And when I was at a family gathering, I just literally opened the back of my thing and said, family members, which includes some of my nieces and nephews who maybe have less money or maybe, have bigger families than I do. And I said, just grab. And it was like a goodie bag, right? Everybody was taking home food. So I didn't have to worry about it. My mom has recently started her own journey, and she has gone and given a lot of food to her neighbors, people who maybe could use the food, and she's not going to use it anymore. A food kitchen. And then you have to go to the store and you need to buy the good foods, right? You need to buy the things that are on the plan that you've chosen. You have to have the right foods in your home, okay? Talk to your family, right? Let them know that you're going to be doing things a little different. Talk to your partner, your significant other, husband, spouse, wife. Let them know that you're planning to do this journey, and hopefully they're supportive of you. And then you need to do some mental preparation. You need to tell yourself why. You need to maybe write in a journal or log it, but you need to prepare for changes that might be at times uncomfortable. Okay, so here's an example of a pantry. All that says condiments and rice and pasta. You got to get all that out of your house, because if it's there, you're going to eat it at some point. You may not eat it the first week, the second week, but someday you're going to crave, right? Then you need to fill up on good things, right? I am eating a meat-based whole food carnivore diet. I am eating mostly meat. I do eat a few vegetables, but not many. So my freezer looks a lot like that. It's just full of lots of quality, healthy meat. Then I want you to do some documentation. This is terrifying for some of us if we've ever done this before. I want you to write down all the symptoms that you're having, right? It doesn't have to be biological, like oh my gosh, I've got diabetes. It could be simply when I sleep at night, I wake up 3 times in the middle of the night to go pee. Or it might be, oh, my joints just ache on a regular basis. It might be mental clarity. There's a lot of different things. So I want you to get some baseline labs. If you haven't had your labs done in the last 6 months, if you haven't had your A1C, your triglycerides, an important one, fasting insulin. Most doctors don't ask for it, but I want you to ask your doctor for fasting insulin, not fasting glucose, fasting insulin. I want you to get those lab results, right? Get them at the beginning because you can't have your own 1 year in review kind of journey if you haven't seen your labs. I want you to write down how much are you sleeping on average at night. My Fitbit tells me, but write it down. How's your mental health? Like, get a scale together. Like, 0 means I'm doing horrible and I'm going to kill myself, and 10 means I'm the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. Write a scale out for these kinds of things that don't have a number. Your pain levels, right? If you deal with chronic pain, what are your pain levels like? How's your menstrual cycle? Are you regular? Do you have extreme flooding, etc., etc.? Because those things will change as you start to change your body's hormones. Where are your stress levels, right? Are you daily stressed? Are you, normal, typical stress? Are you under an extreme amount of stress right now? Write all these things down. The hardest part for me was taking photos of myself. So I started in July of 2023. Yep, 2023. And I didn't take my before photos until October. I just wasn't sure it was going to work. And I was afraid to do it, but I really wish I'd had those July photos. I really wish I'd had the very beginning. Make sure you take pictures of your body in something kind of skin tight-ish. Mine is a pair of yoga shorts and a tank top. And then take some pictures of your face, okay? I want you to take measurements. We don't like the tape measure. We really hate the scale, but take some measurements, right? Measure your waist, measure your hips, measure your thighs, your arms, etc. Measure some parts of your body, things that are problem areas for you that you want to see, because sometimes the scale won't be moving, but the tape measure might be. Then the next step of preparing for your journey is choosing your food plan, right? Choosing your food plan. I highly recommend that we all do low carb of some form, right? You really need to get those processed foods out of your diet and all added sugars, period. No questions asked. There's no one on the planet who thinks eating a lot of sugar and processed foods are beneficial to us. Now, how low you go on your carbs depends on you and your goals. My personal goals were to reverse diabetes. I started with low carb. I was doing about 75 grams or less, but soon I lowered down to 50, and soon I lowered more because as I went to more whole foods, as I got away from keto treats and making keto versions or low carb versions of desserts, my body naturally was able to go down lower. But I wasn't seeing the results I was hoping for in the weight loss and in my blood sugar. So I had to go keto, which is less than 20 grams of carbs a day. It's debatable as to whether those are net carbs or whether those are those total carbs. But most people who are strict do total carbs. If you are eating vegetables, you might want to do net carbs because whole vegetables like lettuce or broccoli are probably not going to be affecting your blood sugars very much. And so some people in those situations will discount the fiber. But don't do net carbs if you're using sugar alcohols. Don't do net carbs if you're using artificial sweeteners because those will actually potentially spike your insulin and spike your glucose. So they're going to defeat the purpose, right? Whole foods, try to stick to your whole foods. Some of us are a little more strict. This is actually how I would describe myself. I am a meat-based keto. I do dairy and I do a few vegetables. Over time, I've added in things like avocados, pickles, cucumbers, lettuce, some very simple things that do not create bingy behaviors in me and also don't spike my sugars. There are some people who need to go on a more extreme version of a diet like carnivore. Carnivore is animal products only, which would include potentially dairy, depending on you. Some people have reactions to dairy, so you might want to get rid of those. Some people do something called beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. It's not literally only beef, it's just ruminant meat. Ruminant meat is any animal that chews its cud, basically, or kind of has a ruminant system. So that would include things like bison, elk, deer, right? So those would be included, but not things like pork, because pork animals are like us. They don't really digest their food in quite the same way. And so some people have a histamine response. They have an allergic response. And so getting rid of that level of pork. Now, bacon, for some reason, for most people doesn't do too bad because it's not really that much muscle meat. It's much more fat. Another is Lion Diet. Lion Diet, again, is only ruminants, and this eliminates everything, including eggs. Some people have allergic reactions to egg whites. So if you're starting to have like an inflammation or an achy still and you're eating eggs, you might need to try to get rid of the whites or the whole eggs. And that's where some people do the Lion Diet. Many people who do Lion only do it for like 30 to 60 or 90 days to then slowly add things back, right? So if your dinner plate looks like this, cheese and eggs and meat, asparagus, avocados, and a couple berries, then you're doing really good. Okay. You're doing 1,000 times better than America. So what do you have to do then? I highly recommend we do a little bit of tracking. So remember that documentation. Get on the scale at first, right? The first day. And this is the My Carb Manager. My Carb Manager is the one that I use in order to track mine. Everybody's a little different as to which ones they do, but will you track your macros? So that really depends on you and what level at which you function. So for some people, this is like triggering, right? They feel really the diet mentality if they have to track their food every day. And if that's the case, if you're eating, like for me, meat and dairy only, and you're eating when you're hungry and not when you're full, you'll be fine. But for some of us, we need to track our macros, especially if you start to hit a stall. Tracking is good. So I recommend, at least for the first few weeks, that you get an app on your phone. The reason I say get an app on your phone is because it knows all the information for you and you don't have to really look it up. Chronometer is really popular. MyFitnessPal is used by a lot of people. And then Carb Manager. Because Carb Manager really focuses on the carbohydrates, you can ignore a lot of things about it. And I personally ignore the calorie count because calories matter a whole lot less than my keeping my carbohydrates down. Some people choose to use a food scale. I recommend to have one in your house. What I do is when I get like a pack of meat at the store and it's all the steaks are laid out, I will actually get my food scale out and I will weigh the individual steaks as I put them in their individual sealed bags so that when I pull them out of the freezer, it's already written on there and I only had to measure them once. It just saves myself time. Over time, you learn how much a pound of hamburger looks like. Get those quarter-pound hamburgers, right? That's easy to tell. I highly recommend that everybody have a habit tracker. Habit trackers are an item that you can use in order to write down 3 to 5 monthly habits. Don't overwhelm yourself with habits. So the habits can be something as simple as I'm going to eat only these foods. It could be something as simple as I'm going to get out and walk for 15 minutes after I eat dinner every single day. I'm going to go to bed by 10:30 every night, right? Everybody's habits are going to be a little different, but I recommend you get a habit tracker and you actually check it off. And then the weigh yourself question is really, that's up to you. And the reason I say that it's up to you is because for me personally, early in my journey, it was like a really comfortable, safe place for me to see some progress and make some tweaks. But the way I weigh myself, and I don't recommend you do it any other way, if you weigh yourself every single day, I want you to average your weekly weight. My Fitbit, does that for me. So when I put in my weight every day, it just averages it for me. And I only look at my weekly average. I don't really care about the day-to-day weighing because day-to-day weighing could be, have I gone to the bathroom today? Did I eat something that was maybe a little saltier or maybe a little carbier one day? And it can fluctuate. If you're a woman, obviously once a month, it definitely fluctuates and you have no control over what your hormones are doing. So that's a question. Now, the last thing I've heard, and it works for a lot of people, is in the first month, it's best to take your weight at the beginning of the month and then just do the right things. Focus on your habits. Ignore your scale for a month. I know that's very challenging because I don't want you to get discouraged on week 2 if nothing's changed because we're on a healing journey. We're not on a weight loss journey. You will lose weight. You will head towards your optimal weight or you will gain if that's your goal, but you have to get healthy first. And if your body is metabolically sick, the scale may not do what you want it to do. So for a lot of people, putting the scale away a month at a time is a good thing. Personally, right now, I'm in a 1-month journey to try to avoid getting on this scale to see if I can feel comfortable in my own skin and trust the process. The last thing is everybody needs support. Okay, we all have to have some kind of support system. Do you have support at home? Do you have a partner, or do you have someone that you can talk to who's really going to be there to help you? I need everyone to find their tribe. And so I've tried several different places. The first thing I did is I, of course, told my husband. My husband's a great part of my tribe. But then I tried Kelly Hogan's support groups, and they were a little bit larger than I thought they would be. And I really enjoyed them. I learned a lot from Kelly. She's right there in the group with you. So if you know who Kelly Hogan is, she's a great support system. I joined the Steak and Butter Gang, which is Bella, the Steak and Butter Gals group. That group, it's really inexpensive. You have access to coaches and lots of people to answer a lot of questions, and it's great support. And finally, I've settled personally in Dr. Barry's Proper Human Diet community. It's fairly inexpensive, but the people are super supportive. Lots of great information. But you don't need just an online group, right? We have our Journey to Wellness group. So if you're in my in-person class, you have this Journey to Wellness group. You have a team and you need support. Join a Facebook group. There's one on there that I'm in right now. It's called Word Way of Eating, and it's all about reducing diabetes and insulin resistance. And it's great. There's a ton of support. Now, do I know those people personally? I do not. And so I highly recommend that you find a friend that's either losing with you or is going to be your sounding board, because as you're learning stuff, as you're changing, you're going to want to talk to somebody. You're going to want to share that you lost half a pound, right? Or that your jeans that you haven't fit into for 6 years all of a sudden is like, oh my gosh, I can pull them over my hips. Oh my gosh, I can button them, right? You need somebody to share with you. If you have other ideas of other support type groups, other support systems, put them in the comments, right? Let me know what they are, because we can only succeed together. So my final thoughts for this week. Number one, sleep is essential. If you don't sleep properly, if you don't prioritize getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep minimum, your body is not going to have time to heal. And you're going to raise those stress hormones, which will also raise your insulin and glucose, which is our goal to get lower. So really need to focus on your sleep. I personally go to sleep during the work week at about 9:30, but I also get up at 4:45 in the morning. Number two, stress management, stress management, stress management. You have to take time for yourself. And for those of you who are moms or dads who have lots of little kids, especially if you're a single parent, I know that that's very difficult. But you have to find time to prioritize for yourself, even if it's only 30 minutes a day, even if it's a 10-minute breathing session that you listen to, like a nose breathing or box breathing that you can get on YouTube, right? Find some way to work on your stress management. We're going to look more at stress management in a future class, but for now, just think about it. And finally, for your homework, as you're going through this next week, I want you to come back with 2 new things to your group of people in your tribe that you've learned over this week. Because as you learn, as we grow together, we get better together. So I'm going to say that's all for now. Remember, if you are an online watcher, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It makes it so that other people can hear my talks, especially if there's anything in here you think your friends and family could use to hear. Thanks a lot, guys.